In my search to find rail shooters I've never heard of before, there's one company that keeps popping up, and that's Taito. I swear, they are like the constant second runner for every kind of rail shooter. Like, they had an airplane rail shooter released around the same time as Afterburner that wasn't quite as good. Night Striker was clearly their response to Space Harrier. I actually think Jupiter Strike might be their answer to Star Fox, and if that's the case, then Galactic Storm is quite obviously their Galaxy Force 2. Indeed, if I think anyone actually ran into this thing in the arcades, they probably would have regarded it as just a cheap Galaxy Force 2 knockoff back then. And that's why we've never heard of it. The fact that it probably had terrible distribution, because I've never seen this thing. It was only released in arcades. I don't even know if it actually had a US release, so it's kind of a mystery. However, actually sitting down and playing it now, it's a good bit different from Galaxy Force 2. Most notably, all you have is a regular shot at a screen-clearing bomb. No homing missiles, which, if you know me and the rest of this show, I consider that to be a plus. Your regular shots work. No homing missile, that means no homing missile spam. That makes me happy. And your regular shots are actually kind of interesting. They're a double shot, but they're not rapid fire. They're semi-automatic, like it shoots 5 bullets and there's a pause and another 5. Sometimes it seems like I can shoot more than 5, but I don't know why. It might just have something to do with a sprite limit on screen or something. I'm not sure. Either way, they try to discourage you from just holding down the button and flying around, instead actually pressing it when you need to press it to shoot little sprays of 5 bullets. As you can see, the game goes absolutely freaking nuts with the sprite scaling. And sort of like Space Harrier, it has that kind of field where you can keep moving left, right, up, or down almost infinitely, and it keeps finding a way to, like, keep you on. Basically, there's no invisible walls. Like, it feels like you can keep going left or right endlessly, and somehow it always finds more stage to throw at you. And that's really neat. Stages are actually divided up into multiple sections, each one with a flashy sprite scaling effect to go with it. And it all comes together really, really well. With each stage having its own different visual effect, they also find tons of new obstacles to throw at you. And so the stage design stays interesting and unique throughout the entire game. You never know what's coming next. Each little section of the stage with its own unique visual effect there actually only lasts a short amount of time, so you never grow tired of it. As soon as you start to get used to that visual effect, it's time to move on to the next visual effect, so it's always keeping it interesting. And on top of that, the stages actually have branching paths in some areas. Like, you might approach a battleship and you can fly over the top or underneath it. Or you might find a fork in the road that you could go left or right on, and so on. Which, again, gives the game something more to it. The story is some complete nonsense about a planet that was worshipped as a god, and you're going to destroy it because it controls destiny. It's very Taito. It's very giant wall of text if you leave the arcade machine running Taito style thing. And there's one other thing well worth mentioning, and that's the music, which interestingly is some very fast-paced, upbeat, jazzy tunes, which you wouldn't think would work, but work really, really well. It's not exactly something I would jam out to in the car on its own, not quite. But while playing this game, it works perfectly. I especially love the second stage tune with the little piano jamming on it. That's some good time. However, I have to comment on the graphics. I gotta be honest, they look a little weird. You see, normally in a sprite scaling based game, sprites tend to be rendered at about medium distance, then they make them bigger or smaller as you get closer to or further away from them. In this case, though, the sprites all seem to be rendered super large at near max zoom, and they just zoom them out. The result is, since this is like the only game I can think of that's done this, it actually looks a little weird to me. The sprites are almost too big and too crisp. Speaking of too big, you've probably noticed that your spaceship takes up almost the entire screen. And that is a little bit of the problem, because, well, it reduces visibility, you know? The camera's just a little bit too zoomed in. Amazingly, this rarely, if ever, caused me any problems, because as long as you keep moving, you'll see stuff coming at you, but still, yeah, no, the camera's a little bit too awkwardly zoomed in. There's also the fact that as you move to the left and right side of the screen, the camera suddenly tilts at like a 45-degree-ish angle, and that's just bizarre. Like, if it was a steady, gradual tilt as you moved closer to each side of the screen, that would look amazing, but no, it's just, okay, it's completely flat. Oh wait, 45-degree angle. That's a little odd. Also, there's this one particular visual effect in this short section that, yeah, no, this confuses my brain. What the crap is going on here? This actually looks like a visual bug, which, I have to be honest, I am, of course, playing this through an emulator. I'm playing it on MAME, and the video emulation isn't 100%. So I actually went out of my way to search Nico Nico Doga for a video of it being played off of a real arcade board, and sure enough, all of the visual complaints I have mentioned are in the arcade machine. I did see some of the graphical errors in the current emulation of it. They're here and there, but they're so minor they almost don't count. The emulation is almost 100% accurate. It's really, really close, like 99%. As such, all of the complaints I have made remain valid. Also, one actual gameplay complaint, well, 1.5, I do have to say the game feels a little easy. It feels odd that I was able to make it so far into this game without, like, any sort of issues. Like, I can get a good ways into Stage 2 on a single credit, if not beat Stage 2 on a single credit. Keep in mind, there's only, like, it's like 5 or 6 stages in the game total. It's a little on the short side, but considering how constantly it's changing up, that's not really a problem. Definitely keeps you on your toes. It feels long enough. It takes about a half hour to beat, continue spamming and all. But yeah, no, it feels like I could get too far on a single credit, and I did notice that by default the game is set to easy mode, but even on normal mode, I could get pretty far in there. Having said that, I can't one credit clear it, so I can't say it's that too easy. And you know what? If I actually played this in the arcade as a kid, I would freaking love it, because the game is forgiving enough. Honestly, the first stage is a lot of enemies and not a lot of being shot at, which, again, that's another thing I really have to praise here. The game is constantly giving you something to dodge or something to shoot. But that gameplay complaint, let me get back to that. There's only like 2 of these in the entire game, but there are these tunnel segments. They're stupid. Because you see, your ship, it's kind of too big, kind of takes up almost the entire screen. And these tunnels, they're kind of about the same size as your ship. And all you can do is shoot straight ahead, so yeah, basically you just fly straight through these tunnels spamming your fire button. You can't see any of the enemies coming at you, but it doesn't matter because you know they're right in front of you because there's no room to move. It doesn't ruin the game. Again, there's only 2 of them, and they're easy. They're just phenomenally stupid. Phenomenally stupid. Because, what's even the point of these sections? Even still, with all its little rough edges here and there, Galactic Storm is exactly the kind of game I created the Rail Shooter Archive to find. This is what we're looking for here, people. These little sprite scaling based gems that no one's friggin' heard of, that, okay, yeah, they might not be a classic, but they're about the next best thing. Speaking personally, I still like Night Striker more than this. This is probably Taito's best after Night Striker, and it is well worth giving a look.